This conference will now be recorded.
Good day. This is Harold Watson, Chairman of the Housatonic Greenway Complete Streets Subcommittee. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, we are conducting this regular monthly meeting on gotomeetings.com on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022 at 12 noon. The quorum for this meeting is 6. I will now call on the following elected members to speak up as present. Subcommittee members: Karen Burke, Tom Dillon,
Here.
Ellen Frank, Christopher Green,
Here.
Nels Pearson, George Perham, Jennifer Sheldon. I know she's here. You were just here, right, Jennifer? I see your face. James Simon. I see his face. Myself, Harold Watson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who is the sixth person I'm missing?
Joe Garrett's here.
Oh, okay, Joe. You're sitting in as a voting member today. Okay.
John Staley.
We also welcome Smith Atada and Aileen
everyone.
Marsh. And in addition, we have I know we have one other new member that we're going to vote on today, Sarah Graham, who is on planning. She is going to be the person who reports back to planning for us. So when we get to her, everybody please welcome her, and I'm going to ask her to introduce herself. There's also a new alternate that we're going to have, Brian Service, who is currently an alternate on planning, but he is an avid dirt biker up in Roosevelt Field, so I think he'll be a good person for our committee. Someone has a surge coming over their microphone.
Harold.
Jim, is that you?
President John Staley.
Ah, John. Okay.
And you also have Karen Rodia. Harold
Okay.
as another alternate, Karen Rodia.
Okay. All right, great. So then Aileen, we can count the alternates to make a quorum, correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we're fine. We can move forward then. Today, is John here? Our engineer?
I just saw him. Yeah, John is here.
Okay.
John Casey, yes.
John Casey, sorry. Okay. Before I call this meeting to order, I'd like to remind everyone to raise their hand if they would like to be recognized by the chair, and wait to be recognized, called on each and every time throughout this meeting. Please identify yourself by name each time you'd like to speak. This is per Governor Lamont's executive order. With that said, I call to order this regular session of the Stratford Housatonic Greenway Complete Streets Subcommittee of Planning. The first item on our agenda is our minutes. Will someone give me a
Motion to approve the minutes?
yes?
Christopher Green.
Someone second that? I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
Aye.
All right. So now what we're going to do is I think, so Smitha, may we, I looked at the agenda. The agenda doesn't have our new members on it, or does it?
It just says new appointments from Planning Commission. So the two new appointments would be Brian Sturbis and Sarah Graham.
Can we do
Brian
that?
can't make it today.
Can we do that now?
Yes, it's the third item on the agenda.
Okay. So guys, I'd like to introduce our two new members. They're both from planning. Let's see. Sarah Graham is a member of the planning board, and where Brian Sturbis is a alternate on the planning board. So he's not here today, but I know he's interested. He's emailed me several times. So let's just take a moment and let Sarah introduce herself. And let me, before I start, just say that I met with planning at their request this past week, and I took our last set of minutes to them. I think they were very impressed with the amount of stuff that we went over in one meeting. So Sarah, the floor is yours. If you want to introduce yourself. You're muted.
We can't
Sarah,
hear.
now we can.
Sure, thank you. So hi everyone, I am Sarah Graham. Like he said, I'm on the planning commission right now. Excuse me?
Sarah,
was that?
You're going in and out.
I don't know what he said. So I'm on the planning commission and been in Stratford past few years, but I grew up in Connecticut and I'm getting.
Sarah, you popped out again. I'm sorry.
Maybe if she calls in addition to keeping
Share
her.
about me that you would be interested to hear.
Sarah, you know what? Sometimes people
And I'm
have,
excited to be a part of this committee and to.
oh, I was going to say, sometimes when you go in and out, it helps if you turn your camera off.
Hello?
Um,
Sarah,
so
can
I'm
you call
so
in?
excited to be a part of this and help.
Sarah, you're echoing now. Sorry.
Karen Rodia has her hand up.
Yes, Karen.
I know we've had this issue on conservation, and what happens is they leave the picture up and then they do a phone in addition to it, and that way we can hear them. I don't know if that will help Sarah, but
Sarah, can you hear me? Can you wave your hand if you can hear me? So I'm going to suggest that you do that. If you can shut off your microphone in the GoToMeeting and do a call in separately so we can get your audio. You're doing that now? Okay.
In the interest of time, Chair, can
Yes.
we go to the next item and then come back to this one?
Sure.
Mhm.
Sarah, we haven't forgotten you. We're going to do a vote when we get you on live. The next item on is actually you, Susmitha, correct?
Yeah, I think the next two are mine. Greenway
Yes.
Phase 2 and Complete Streets Phase 1 status updates. So, you know, this is a very bad news, but I'll try to tell you in a good way. I'm going to mute caller 3 for now. So we were hoping that DOT would sign off on our final designs by this week, so that March 10th is the grant deadline, and we would have had our 100% designs ready to go. But our project manager, Devin Clark with MetroCog, informed me that DOT and District 3 office with the traffic division are asking for revised signal plans, and they had to revise the entire set again even though they have seen multiple iterations of those in the past few months, which means they may be able to give us final comments this week or not. So we had to seek an emergency grant deadline extension for another 3 months. So that's where we stand with that right now, and I'm hoping that DOT gets us everything we need to sign off on in the next 1 month or so we can proceed with bidding.
Susmitha, have we
Mhm.
gotten that extension, or you just have filed for it?
Well, we almost got it. Like, the project manager with the OPM is working with us on the grant extension, and mayor signed the
Okay.
extension and everything. Hmm. So it looks like in a matter of days, I'll get the final paperwork. Mm-hmm.
And Aileen, can you notice that George Perham has now joined us?
Hello, everybody. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I got hung up in another meeting. I apologize for that.
Susmitha, continue then.
Yes, I think that's it. And then we have Tammy with us today because Tammy was working on a grant, and we were discussing that briefly at the Mill River breakfast. Economic Development breakfast. And then Tammy shared some walking path maps that Health Department has in a digital format, and we were wondering if this group can actually assist in preparing paper maps and brochures for seniors. I would let Tammy speak about this project more in detail.
Welcome, Tammy.
Hi, everyone. I think I know most everyone on the call, but my name is Tammy Trojanowski. I work for the town of Stratford, currently serving as the Director of Community and Senior Services. So we were recently inspired by this grant opportunity, and I think Greg Riley is on the call. He brought it to my attention from the AARP, and it's inspired us to talk about how can we encourage more walking among our seniors. And so we're trying to figure out how do we make walking more of a accessible activity. And we were also, I guess I'm going to use the word inspiration, by our very own walking club here at Baldwin Center. Starting during the pandemic, we invited people to come walk with us. The first week, 5 women showed up. And then it just kept going. And so we stopped over the winter months. But at one point, we had a solid 15 to 20 women coming once a week. They started out as strangers. They became great friends. They have each other's phone numbers. They go to lunch. They pick adventures all over town where they want to go walking each week. And so we really want to build on the success of that. And I think Susmitha just thought I should be sure to connect with this group because it seems like our vision and goals are sort of aligning here about making walking just more accessible and interesting, and encourage people to get out there and walk and see our beautiful neighborhoods and walk the tracks that we do have available to us. If that's helpful for you to know.
Tammy, I appreciate the work that you've done on this. And what you're doing is actually part of the Greenway. So this is exactly what we should be doing. Oftentimes we forget that when we talk about the Greenway, mainly because of me, but we tend to talk about it in terms of biking, but these really are multimodal routes around town. And I noticed in what you have, there many of your starting points are school parking lots, which is exactly what we need to integrate into our local bike routes, is where there's accessible parking. That's true in every town, but that's particularly true in Stratford. So what I would love to see us do long term, I'm not suggesting we do it immediately, but is to integrate your maps with what we've done in terms of planning for bike routes and see where they can overlap each other, because according to the state and according to the Department of Transportation, multimodal, we should be doing all of our routes multimodal, so that it's walk, it's wheelchair, it's senior, It's bicycling of all different kinds, both the oldest, the youngest, and the most professional of riders. All of those, so that all of those are integrated in a layer below automobile traffic. So that we begin to develop the notion of you don't have to go everywhere in a car. That we, particularly in your own neighborhood, we can get people moving around in whatever device they feel is best, whether it's sneakers or, wheels, bikes and skateboards and everything else. There are very clear, there's new language in state law that gives preferences to who is on the roads in terms of pedestrian always has first choice, and then it goes on up where then it becomes bicycles, then it becomes automobiles. But the at the top of the list always is the pedestrian. So there also is, I don't know if you're aware of this in state law, they changed it within the last 2 years to say that pedestrians and bicycles can coexist on sidewalks. So the one thing that I would love to know is, have you guys evaluated all of these streets for where there are where they're on road and where they're on sidewalks?
Nope.
So that's something
we
that,
are so early. We are so getting started with this. We're right. Those are old maps that we were just looking to update, but that is really useful information. And, so I don't know, those of you that know me, my background is like human services. So this is not what I do. This sort of area is new. So having your expertise, your advice, it was great to, reach out to Susmitha and get her opinion. I think what's great is like, there's already sort of this energy around it, and let's leverage that and all kind of, walk in the same direction. So,
you're absolutely right.
yeah.
And-
So
and-
I'm almost here to learn, as I'm kind
Well,
of.
in essence, the way I look at our greenways, and I know everybody hears me saying this all the time, it's really part of our vision tour, our vision trail. We can call it a greenway, we can call it complete streets, we can call it the sidewalks, but it is how we get people on the ground to see the vision of Stratford. And I love what you've done. You're much more sophisticated than we are in terms of your neighborhood tours. That is kind of the ultimate goal of all of our greenways, is to get people to look at what's on the ground level in Stratford and the beautiful places where there really are vistas that, whether you're walking or whether you're on a bike, that you can actually see a great spot. And I tell this story all the time. There's a bike club up in Litchfield that comes to Stratford because they want to ride our roads, because we have more roads next to the ocean, next to the water, than any other place. And they really love the fact that they can come here and do a 10-mile ride from, Paradise to a loop around the south end and at the beaches and do a 10-mile ride, which is good for an outsider coming in. But we also have quite a number. I don't know if you know this, Tammy, but through Parks and Rec a couple of years ago, I put together a bicycle club, and we had probably half of our people were over 60. We had people in their 80s riding with us, and we also had young kids. We had teenagers, which is, to me, the ideal mix. That has kind of fallen mainly because my own personal life took over, and then COVID took over, but I want to see us do that again. So in some way, I would love to take one or two of these maps and see how can we fit this in to be a walk ride. So what I'm going to ask of our committee is pick the map that's in your neighborhood and go walk it and see how can we make it compatible for both a walk ride and for a bike ride. Because Tammy, I don't think that would be a negative for you in any way, particularly if we're encouraging the seniors who can get around. And I noticed a lot of your routes are in the neighborhoods, so we don't have to wait for striping in those neighborhoods. We can say this is our bike route for now. There are a couple places where you might not be aware, but like up near the bridge in the north end, where they park in the commuter parking lot, going across the road is a dangerous intersection. So we haven't gotten the upgrades for that intersection yet, but at least we haven't the last time I was on my bike up in that area. With COVID, they might have put it in. I haven't ridden up there in the last year. So those kind of things, we do have knowledge that we can maybe help you with in terms of directing your walkers. But I think that I look at myself. I maybe have another 5 or 6 years of bike riding when I'm going to be stuck walking. And the two should be something that you can go back and forth between. So a biker, we like to try to put something like 4 to 10 miles in a bike route, but we could take 2 of your routes and cobble together 3 of them, come up with the same 6 or 8 miles in terms of a ride. So I think that if we say see Stratford and direct them on all kinds of traffic to see Stratford. And I appreciate that you're doing this for seniors, but I do know from when we had the bike club, some of my seniors that were on the bike clubs were better than some of the 30 and 40-year-olds in terms of their energy and ability to keep going and to show up every week. So as we build back the bike club, you might be able to help us with that also. Okay,
Yeah, that's great. I don't want to take any more of your time, but I want to make sure I give credit where credit is due. Those maps actually is building on the health department's work. So Andrea Boissevain and Greta Broneal are the staff that I want to make sure they have credit. They're just kind enough to share it with me. But we're a team in the town, so we all work together.
Well, Tammy, I just this past week, I actually went to planning and said, can you put some money in the budget, this coming budget, for our Greenway all throughout town, where we can start advertising that. So you actually fulfilled part of what I'm looking for. I would love to find a way to make it more graphical, but in terms of the information, it's all right there. If we could overlay our bike maps and just have a connection between each of your sections, saying if you're interested in riding more than a mile, connect here with the next map that goes with map 2, and that's common in bike maps all over the place. So we could actually put that together, and I think we have enough expertise on this in this committee that we might not be able to do the graphic, but we could lay it out and say and suggest to someone, here's where we need the line. Am I correct, Tom?
Sir, yes, sir.
Chris, is this something you can do if you're going to be a new daddy soon with all your free time?
We will see. The due date is this Sunday, so depending on how things go, we will. Yeah. So you're looking for basically advertising this, or by looking at the flyer?
I'm actually looking for us to do the work to take the maps from Tammy and say, where do our current maps, the plans for our Greenway, where do they fall that's on what's existing there? But here's something else for the committee. I would like everybody in the committee to pick their neighborhood and walk it so that we can say, is this a fully sidewalked area? Are there any really safety conditions that we need to put up and give people notice that they should pay special attention here? Is there some place where we need to sign that says, seniors crossing or people crossing, or however we want to do it? So I hope everybody saw that. So Smith sent this information out a week ago. I hope you all got to look at it. I know it's a lot. I tried to print it out and I jammed my printer, but only print out what you need for right now.
So the action item here is, I guess, Tom, maybe you want to get together, we could look through some of it and see what we could do, or?
Yeah, I'll go through them and see what we can do. I hear Howard asking to kind of match up where the Greenway's going, and you know, and just trying to identify like any problem areas and just looking at it. And I can't do them all, but I mean, there's a lot of,
I'm not asking. I'm asking everybody to take their neighborhoods.
yeah.
But
I see the
we're
shore
not
and
gonna get all of
historical.
it. But let's see what happens when we do it. Is it something that comes up closer to what we would like to see as an ideal map? Because if we can do that, then we can say we'll print the neighborhoods. We won't worry about going right now with the whole network. We'll start small. We'll say to someone, if you want to do a 1 mile ride in your neighborhood, here's where it is. If you want to walk your neighborhood, here's where it is. So that essentially there might be 2 separate lines or there might be 1 line. But I think it would do a move forward, and it would be a tool that Tammy could use the same way. And Tammy, thank your people for doing this, because we have not updated our thinking for a couple of years. Karen Rodia is here, correct? You're muted. But Karen, would you like to work with Tom and Chris on this?
Sure.
Because you have you have a good idea of the history of where we had laid maps down.
Okay. I'll be happy to do that.
So what kind of output are you looking for, Howard, though? I'm looking at the maps. They're very, you know, they're very defined as they are. So are we going to produce something new, or are we just going to type something up?
I think all we're going to do is we're going to look at these maps, walk the neighborhood, and say, is this the safest route here in this neighborhood? And then say, where would our bicycle route, technically right now, our bicycle route legally is on any of these drawn maps. But is there a place where we had decided on enhancing, on striping, on doing extension of the Greenway over the years? If there is, does it sync up with this map? This is all stuff that needs to conform with the new POCD. So it's not like we're doing busy work. This actually will help when we go to put in the new maps, the walk, bike, Greenway, complete streets maps. It will be information that we'll be able to use. Yes, ma'am, Karen.
When Greenway was originally formed and we started putting things together, the goal was to connect all the neighborhoods and have striping available every time a road was repaired or replaced by the town, and then to request that the state do the same. And unfortunately, that has gotten lost by the wayside over the years. And so you're going to find many of the neighborhoods that were in the original mapping have been upgraded and there's no striping. So, and they have no sidewalks, because a lot of the developers were allowed to do a cash donation in lieu of the sidewalks. I mean, I know my whole neighborhood, I live on Cut Spring, and I'm north of the Merritt, and the whole area where I am, there are no sidewalks, none. And there's no striping and when I say striping, I don't mean the middle of the road down, to separate one side versus the other. I'm talking about the edging for bicyclists and pedestrians, and that is not there. So, and it's not the only area that it's not there, but to Tammy's point as to what needs to be done to make the area more walkable is we have to maintain the sidewalk integrity as well as the roadside integrity where there are no sidewalks, so that there are areas that are safe. We don't want our pedestrians getting hit.
Let me just fill in for background on Karen. There was real hard work over the years of where we needed to add sidewalks in, where we needed to have curb cuts, where we needed to have ADA accessible. So a lot of that work has been done. But what hasn't been done is Stratford has not adopted the idea of striping, whether it's for bikes or for walkers. We have not adopted any kind of a striping on our own roads, not on the state roads. So part of what this would do, Karen, I think, is begin to get the town to think about saying, oh, we need to start a plan of striping, because it's still expensive, but we could start that. We could have a simple walk bike medallion that we stripe even a residential street to give some direction and some clarity to all users of the road that.
Right. Well, that was my point, was that was actually, when Greenway first became a committee, that was one of the things that was discussed with planning. And it was initially, it started to be done, and then it just kind of fell by the wayside. And so that, to Tammy, like, as I said, to Tammy's point, you know, the walkability and safety, you want to create that little safety buffer.
Yes.
Even if it's just with a stripe on the road. And that's, I think that's the only place that we can start.
But Karen, here's the thing that we are forgetting, where we even laid out routes because we are waiting. I think we have to work on both ends. We have to work with Tammy, people out there using this, and at the same time, hope that that will convince the town that we need to invest more in that infrastructure. So it's what we learned during COVID is that there were probably an additional 600 bikes on the streets in Stratford with people riding because they had more time to do it. They didn't have stripes. They didn't have markers. They didn't have anything. So I think our Greenway is a way of focusing, of offering some level of safety, not just to the walkers and riders, but also to help the people in cars begin to understand, I need to be very safe. I need to be very careful in this area.
Exactly.
But ultimately, then engineering and public works and the town and CI and capital funding, we will begin to say, let's make this a greater priority. If we have it in the ordinance, we just don't have it in a recognition of how important this is. If we want to have, like, you know, a 20-year-old is going to end up being a senior in Tammy's organization. So we're helping us all if we get everybody moving in that direction. Yes, John Staley.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. I was just curious, wouldn't it start with planning and zoning?
John, we are a committee of planning, and it's what we do is, that's why we now have Ms. Graham on, or we will have Ms. Graham shortly. What we do goes back to planning. So ultimately, the decisions we make, we're passing on to planning and asking them to enact them.
Harold,
Yes,
can I
ma'am.
talk?
Yes, you may.
So I think in terms of the work that needs to be done, maybe taking those maps that health department has and perhaps each member of the committee, or I don't know how you would like to distribute the work, but look at the routes, walk the routes to see where you have sidewalks in good condition, if they're ADA accessible or not, if there are curb cuts that lead to the road for ADA accessibility, if there is, you know, enough room to build a sidewalk in case, you know, there is no sidewalk, looking at field conditions and, you know, updating these maps accordingly is the first step. And then the second step is probably, you know, the most immediate step. Somehow use those maps to create a brochure on, you know, what the walking routes are in the city, in the town for seniors, and maybe, you know, letting seniors know on how to get involved in the Greenway Committee and Complete Streets Committee's work, and what to expect in the future, what are upcoming plans listed on that brochure, and just, you know, being able to, the funding is the third part, which is the most important part, but that can be figured out once the brochures are finalized and you have updated maps. Then maybe we can distribute these among all housing authority buildings. And in fact, as part of our POCD, we'll have an outreach process where we would engage with the community to know their visions for the town. Maybe that's another venue where we can hand distribute these brochures So it's more like an education campaign and also an informational campaign for John Casey, especially. He's a town engineer, and giving him the field conditions would help him identify and his department identify where the sidewalks need to be replaced or where they have to be made ADA accessible. And I think that's probably a more well thought out plan for this group.
I agree, Smith. I just am concerned that we don't throw out all of the greenways in those neighborhoods that we've done work on, because I don't want them to suddenly get lost. If we can integrate the two so that John is working on one set of documents in engineering, I think long term we would be better off.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the greenways themselves, we have Greenway phase 1 already along Housatonic, and we have Greenway phase 2 that'll be constructed. Maybe those are the two that should go on the brochure. And in terms of new routes, this group will be part of the POCD visioning. I mean, we're going to hire a consultant pretty soon and bring him on board. And you would have an opportunity to sit down and discuss with the consultant and chart out a vision for the next phases of Greenway. And then we are also going to be starting our Complete Streets Phase 2 process, which you will be part of. I mean, there's going to be consultant interviews on that pretty soon, and a consultant will be brought on board to look at the preliminary design concepts for the Phase 2 from Barnum Ave to Paradise Green. So this group will be super busy looking at those two things. Maybe doing voluntarily at this point, on your own, identifying routes. You can do that, but, there is no community participation. And in the absence of community participation, it is as good as somebody telling the others what it should be. And I think, that part of visioning greenways can wait a few months till the POCD process starts so you can engage audiences through that process.
Anybody else have any comments?
At what point, I just have one quick, I didn't realize, but I guess I'm Karen's neighbor because I'm up in her neck of the woods. And we have no sidewalks, that was planning and zoning back then up in the rural area, right? But I have to tell you, we have a lot of walkers, walking the dogs, just families. And I walk myself, and I've never really felt unsafe. So I guess in me being so naive with this to some extent, at what point does it make sense? Is it economically feasible and or practical to start installing sidewalks? Because I think of a neighborhood like that, if you start putting in sidewalks, it would almost be frowned upon because it puts a whole different visual aesthetics in the neighborhood that I'm not sure everybody would be, willing to make that movement because, like I mentioned, there's so many walkers, and I don't think anybody feels unsafe up there. But I could be wrong. I'm just curious, at what point does that, like with the town, say, okay, we're going to put street sidewalks in all that area up there? How do you get there if you have to get there?
The demand is not for sidewalks, it's for safety.
Correct.
You have a road that is not well traveled and that has a good shoulder. You have a 4-foot shoulder plus a 3-foot safety. You have 7 feet on the side of one of those roads, then essentially that's part of a greenway. You stripe it and you say walkers and bikers use this area. But if you can't do that, then you know that at least your people are relatively safe walking this area. So I would put it on a very low priority for any improvements. Even in the North End, a lot of places where there aren't going to be sidewalks because there isn't a volume large enough for people. Where we need the priority still is in the Central District, where we don't have complete sidewalks in areas. You find it surprising, but a block from Town Hall, we still are missing sidewalks.
Right.
So until we get that up to date, it would be very hard to say that we're gonna do, James Farm Road or some other place like that. That's just my personal feeling, but I think that's generally how it falls out.
Gotcha. Thank you.
If I may add, there are some neighborhoods in the town where there's no sidewalks, and that's the character of that neighborhood, but you also have wider streets, internal streets, where people normally walk on one side of the street, and which is fine. That's how those subdivisions have been designed, I think. But it also, if you're surveying these areas, it's also important to look at the lighting of that area in the nighttime, how visible it is for somebody to walk along that route. And I don't know, like if there are some towns that I know that do not want to actually install new streetlights because they want to keep their rural character the way it is. And I don't know what the considerations are for including new lighting along streets. And that's a conversation to have with Public Works when we come to that point.
Anybody else? Tammy, if you have another meeting, I heard you say you had to get out of here. If anybody has a question of Tammy, ask it now so we can let her be on her way. See, we're going to give you an extra 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Tammy.
Is there anybody else with any questions? So Smitha, have you covered both of your topics?
John Stanley.
Yeah, I think John Staley is raising his hand.
I didn't see it, John. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem, Mr. Watson.
You're kind of in the dark today.
I guess. Actually, I've been sending photographs to Samantha, and I have more I have to upload to get them to Samantha. Right now we're down in Florida, and so we stopped in Charlotte, and I photographed what they're doing in other communities. And they have a lot of walkers here and a lot of people on recumbent bikes where they sit down and have a backrest and they pedal. And actually, they're only 3 feet, the striping from the curbside, with the logo, and it seems to work quite well. And it's a very busy street. So that's it.
And guys, if you go on to the East Coast Greenway, you can find all kinds of information, particularly down south in North Carolina, South Carolina, up through Virginia, up through Maryland. It kind of falls apart when it gets into, even New Jersey now has done a lot of work. Falls apart when it gets into Connecticut and Rhode Island, but we're working hard to change that. But go on to the East Coast Greenway and look at some of the projects that are being done locally. They're not all highly engineered. Some of them are very sensible investments.
Rachel.
You there, John?
Are you asking for me?
No, I was just commenting on what you had said.
Oh.
And to the rest of the committee. So Smitha?
Yes.
Are you done? Because I think we have 15 minutes. So
yes,
I would like now, if we can, unless there's anybody else want to make a comment, then I would like to vote in Ms. Graham and also Brian before we run out of time. Anybody else with any comments? I do have one other suggestion that we consider in the future. June 4th is the Main Street Festival, and in the past, I've tried to do it, but I did not have enough people to help me do it. I would like for us to put up a bicycle parking lot. The police said they would help me with it. Stratford Rotary would sponsor it, but I need the bodies to actually make it happen, where we could advertise people ride your bike to the Main Street Festival instead of driving, and then you can take a ride down to Paradise, or you can take a ride down to the beach afterwards. But you're not allowed to have to ride your bike in the Main Street Festival. But if we had parking for it, people would use that as a means of getting there. That is June 4th. At the next meeting, I'd like to discuss that, if anybody's interested in doing it. I think now we need to do our 2 votes. If no one else has anything to add. I'm gonna move ahead with this then. I'd like to nominate Sarah Graham, who is a planning board member, to be the 10th member of our committee. Is there anybody here who will make a motion for that?
So moved.
Anybody second it? I can second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 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 aye. Anybody opposed? So, Aileen, I'm going to say the ayes have it. Is that enough for you? Okay. Now, the next person I'd like, who you have not met, but Brian Sturbis is also on planning as an alternate. He has been really interested before even he became an alternate on planning, on working with the Complete Streets Greenway Committee. So I'm going to ask someone to give a motion for him as an alternate to Complete Streets Greenway.
So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 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 aye. Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. And with that, I believe that our business is complete, unless, Susmitha, do you want to make a final comment?
No, I just want to encourage you to think through this and, take some actionable steps towards what needs to be done through this committee.
Yes,
I
Tom.
have one question for Susmitha too.
Go.
So Susmitha, sorry if I misunderstood, but the redesign that DOT was supposed to do, that's only to do with complete streets around Main Street, right? Is there any new expectations or news as to when the Greenway portion from Birdseye to West Broad is going to move forward?
Yeah, DOT has combined reviews for both projects, and now West Broad and Main intersection is being reviewed as part of the Complete Streets designs. So as soon as we get an approval for that, I think the other roads are local roads, and the town has control over that. So, but John Casey and his team want to bid it as part of one project and take care of the whole thing as under one bidding. So as soon as we hear back on Complete Streets, then, Greenway can proceed.
Okay, so they're basically being tied together. So the Greenway from the boat ramp all the way up Elm to West Broad, and then the piece of Complete Streets, they're all going to be considered one project. Although, they had different developments, they're going to come together at the end.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, anybody with a final comment? Sarah, would you like to make a comment? That's a great comment. Thumbs up, everybody. All right. I am going to make a motion that we close until our next meeting, which is Wednesday, April the 6th, unless Susmitha needs us to make any decisions on anything that comes up. But otherwise, our next meeting is Wednesday, April 6th. Guys, I appreciate you getting here for this meeting. Someone
Harold,
say
I
something?
just need, I need you, this is Aileen. I just need you to have a second. And it looked like I can count on John Staley.
Anybody second that? Sorry.
John Staley did.
John Staley, welcome back. Well, he's in Florida, so it's not like he's back. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, guys, stay safe.
Thank
Report
you.